Andy, great news. Colorado got to 50 points with 4 seconds left in the game against Arizona. Oh, Arizona got to 50 points by halftime and scored 97 and won by 47. Oh, cool.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoops show out there. We're your host. That's the man, Andy Patton, back home from all his holiday travels. Andy, way to be back in your home studio. I'm Isaac Shade, and we are elated to be with you today. We want to thank you for making us your first listener watch to get your college basketball content every day. This episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create a free account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Folks, if you are new to the show, we want to welcome you in. We're so glad you're here. Come join the Locked On College Basketball Discord, where we're talking college basketball all day long. The link for that is in your show notes. Hey, if you would, please come vote for us on the Sports Podcast Awards. We have been shortlisted for the best basketball podcast against a bunch of NBA folks talking about Wemby and whatever else they want to do. We're here holding it down for college hoops. Love it if you vote for us. Also, speaking of college hoops junkies, I got to shout out a couple Marquette fans, Andy Patton, that live up in Michigan, in the Grand Rapids area, and that's Brad Cooley and Jack Pfeiffer. Fellas, what's up? Do all that work up there at MSL. Love that. All right, Andy, here's the deal. It has been a miserable, behind the scenes, we're recording this on Thursday. It's been just a boring, terrible, miserable day for me. Here's how I started my day, Andy. I got 2 fillings, went straight to the DMV to renew my license.
Who does that? Who does that?
I don't know, Andy. What? I don't know what or why I was thinking. I had to ask the kind DMV lady to tell me if I was smiling properly because my mouth was still numb. It was a whole thing. But Andy, as terrible as my day was, at least I didn't get beat by 47 like Colorado did. I tell you what, Arizona obliterates the Buffs 97-50. They needed some Coach Prime help. Andy, here's the thing. No Cody Williams, no Tristan Da Silva hadn't really caught up to Colorado, but it sure did in this one. So, Mr. Patton, here's my question to you. When Arizona plays like this, instead of how they played against Stanford over the weekend, is there anyone that can beat them?
First of all, what a great game for there to be 2 different color commentators. You had Bill Walton and you had Frank Caliendo impersonating Bill Walton. And at least it happened in the game where what was going on the court was hardly relevant or particularly close for the majority of the game. It was a 16-6 lead, and then it was like a 32-13 lead, and then it pretty much just devolved from there. So if there was ever a day to have a broadcaster impersonating another broadcaster, I guess this was the contest where that should have happened.
Whenever has Bill Walton's commentary been more relevant than what's actually happening on the floor? Like, this was the first time ever.
Agreed. In terms of your question, I think, no, when Arizona plays like this, they're the best team in the country. And a lot of teams, including UConn, including Purdue, including Kansas, Houston to an extent, I think even Marquette maybe, when they play pissed off, when they play because they are mad, their coach lit a fire in them, they're on their home court, they know they have to defend it. I think there are a lot of teams that are capable of playing like the best team in the country. That does not mean I think Arizona is the best team in the country, because they do not play like that consistently. They play like that more consistently than a lot of other teams, which is why they're in that conversation. But Purdue is still the best team in the country. But if Arizona plays like this style of basketball that we saw, where Boswell's knocking down every shot, where Krivas looks like the best 6th man in the country, the way that he played in this game, he was phenomenal. When Jaden Bradley's throwing behind the back passes to people, like, it was just an insanely efficient, I mean, they look like an NBA team out there, like run and gun, Showtime, like late 80s Lakers style. Like, this was a phenomenal across the board performance from Arizona, but they don't always play like this.
No.
And again, Colorado, while I think that there is a strong argument, even still, after a 47-point thrashing, that they might still have an argument to be the second best team in the Pac-12. I think Oregon is now kind of in that conversation. I think Utah is absolutely in that conversation as we record right now. They're playing Arizona State. We will see the results.
Down 2 right now, 14.5 to go.
Yeah, so if they lose that game, that maybe changes that conversation a little bit. But Colorado, again, like you said, missing Tristan Da Silva, missing Cody Williams. That is a significant amount of talent to be missing.
I mean, that's two of their 3 best players.
Yeah, but it's probably not a 47-point swing, I don't think.
No.
I don't think those two guys change the outcome here necessarily in terms of a win or a loss. It certainly is probably not that much of a drubbing. But this Arizona team, when they play like this, I mean, they proved – what was great to me is that this was a great defensive performance. Like, yeah, they hung 97 on Colorado, but Arizona can hang 97 on a lot of people. But usually they hang 90 on somebody and they give up 82 or something like that. And Colorado had some significant struggles offensively. Some of that was being disjointed because of the talent that they didn't have on the floor, like we said. But Tommy Lloyd really emphasized this team's defense. He was mad about the lack of defensive effort that they showed against Stanford. He wasn't upset that his team only scored 82 points against Stanford. He was upset that they gave up 100, and justifiably so. And you could tell that was the emphasis for them in this game. Colorado shot 36.4% from the field. They were 4 of 15, under 27% from 3. And I think that was a demonstration of Arizona's really big effort that they made on the defensive end of the floor. When this team plays this good on both ends of the floor, they're going to be really tough to beat.
Well, and Andy, you said the defense, and that is the key to Arizona for me. I know that coming into the game, they were like, I think 7th at KenPom in defensive efficiency. But here's the story the points tell. In coming into this game, in Arizona's 3 losses, opponents were averaging 96 points a game. In Arizona's 10 wins, 66. That's how big that dichotomy was. And obviously, this game tonight is going to bring that average even further down. I haven't added that math in yet, but you're spot on with that point. And yeah, I'm with you. With Da Silva and Williams on the floor, Colorado still doesn't come close to winning this game. But they are the second best team in the Pac-12, and I think that's saying more about the Pac-12 than anything else, because nobody else is taking the bull by the horns either. And I think it also means that in that classic question, was this game more about Colorado or Arizona? Clearly more about Arizona and playing pissed off. You're absolutely right. I need to see Arizona playing pissed off game in and game out, even when it's against Cal, even when it's against UCLA. And yes, I am calling UCLA one of the worst teams in the entire conference, because that's where we're at, Andy, and so wild.
Yep. And I think, you talked about Colorado being the second best team in the conference. I think they probably still in that conversation. But one team that I kind of wanted to mention here is the Ducks. Oregon, they're 3-0 now in conference play after a win on the road against the Huskies, 76-74 in Seattle on Thursday evening. Again, 3-0 in Pac-12 play. That actually pushes Washington all the way down to 0-3 in Pac-12 play. Their losses were at Colorado by 4, at Utah by 5, and to the Ducks by 2. So some unfortunate luck, some close games for the Huskies. But for Oregon, wins over the LA schools, USC and UCLA, and now a road win for them over Washington. Freshman Jackson Shellstad has been a revelation for Dana Altman, 17 points on 7 of 11 shooting in this contest. Mookie Cook, another one of their star freshmen, he made his debut in the season. He's been hurt, wasn't able to play. He was a top 25 prospect in the class of 2023. Only played 6 minutes against Washington, but he did have 4 points on 2 of 3 shooting. And Isaac, Oregon's resume is interesting to me. They don't have any great wins. They got a win over Michigan, which doesn't look great. This win over Washington has not, is not great with Washington's recent struggles. They have a loss to Santa Clara, which doesn't look great. Lost to Alabama, which is fine. 20-point loss to Syracuse, which looks really bad. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm at with Oregon right now, but 3-0 in conference play, and nobody else really stepping up to the mantle right now. So for me, Dana Altman and the Ducks, they might be in that conversation as well.
I mean, I think they have to be. I think it's one of those that we look at where you've got a clear front runner and then everyone else. It's like, I don't think we can. It's the same thing as like Big Ten. I was trying to think of another conference where it's like, I don't think we can talk about anyone else in the conversation for conference champion, but second place is open. Because ultimately at the end of the day, for me, it's Arizona. They're going to run away with this thing. I just think the consistency is there. And but for Oregon, from what we've seen from the Pac-12, why couldn't they get second?
Yeah.
Like the second seed in the Pac-12 tournament is very well within reach. Andy, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention about Arizona, they scored 97 points and Umar Balu only had 4 of them.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, that's just, it's silly. It's very silly. The Pac-12, man, it's going to be wacky in this final year of the Pac-12, and that's what we're going to have to see as they continue to figure all this out.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you got Arizona, you got Utah, you got Colorado, and Oregon are probably all pretty likely to make the NCAA tournament. I'm not sure. I feel very confident there's much else in that conference right now that's even going to be dancing. Certainly things will change between now and March, but it is a conference that is continuing to do what they always do, cannibalize each other, lose games they shouldn't lose, and put themselves in positions where they don't necessarily have the most flashy resumes heading into the big dance.
No, they don't. And UCLA's done.
Yeah,
the only hope that the only hope they have is winning the tournament.
Yeah,
conference tournament.
Well, as I'm going to switch over to talk about the Big East now, and Providence, who not only lost to Seton Hall on Wednesday, they also found out they're losing star wing Bryce Hopkins to a season-ending ACL injury. Just a devastating turn of events for Kim English and the Friars, and of course for Bryce Hopkins. We're going to tell you more about what that means for that team and the Big East, but first, today's episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there is still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use. There are so many different ways to bet. You can bet on spreads, player props, money line, and more. You can also make live same-game parlays and find new bets in the new Explore tab. Right now, the Big East odds, since we are getting into a conversation about Providence and Seton Hall, Marquette is still the leader to win the Big East at plus 200. UConn right behind them at plus 210. Really tough between those two teams. Villanova third at plus 280. Kind of surprising to see the Wildcats up there, followed by Creighton all the way down at plus 650. St. John's at plus 1900. And then a big old gap before we get to Providence at plus 4,700. We'll tell you a bit more why after this. But right now, you can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. All right, Isaac. Seton Hall goes and beats Providence on the road 61-57. A great win for the Pirates. We're going to talk more about what this means for Shaheen Holloway's team, but the focus is on the Friars, who not only lose the game, a very close one again, 4-point loss to Seton Hall, but early or midway through the second half, Bryce Hopkins suffers a knee injury. He's carried off the court. You can tell it was not good. Two teammates on either side of him, wasn't putting any weight on his leg, goes in the locker room, does not return. The fear that everybody had was confirmed, unfortunately, on Thursday morning. Bryce Hopkins has a torn ACL in his knee. He will miss the rest of the season for Providence. 15.5 points, 8.5 boards, and 1.5 assists for him this season. He's having a tremendous year for the Friars, for Coach Kim English, and really just a devastating loss for them, a team that we had ranked the last 2 weeks at Locked On College Basketball. They're really starting to get some love as a top 25 team and kind of crashing the party, as it were, in the Big East next to UConn and Marquette and Creighton, who had been struggling a little bit. And we're kind of starting to see Kim English again in his first year taking over for Ed Cooley, a really tough opportunity for him to kind of make a name for himself and keep this Providence team afloat. And they certainly were doing that, but now they're going to have to do it without one of their best players. And just a really tough spot for this team to have to be in right now.
Yeah, Andy, I hate this, man. Like, why does this have to be part of things? You know, it's just like, just so sad. It's so frustrating and devastating when a guy who's worked so hard and is just, man, I hate it. It's so unfortunate. As for Providence, you know, it's interesting because Carter and Hopkins and Enduro are all right there together, like averaging 16, 15, and 14. So in terms of scoring, yeah, I mean, you lose 15.5 points a game, but you've got your first and third leading scorers on either side of Bryce Hopkins that are just right there. But losing your leading rebounder, always difficult, although he was only leading Devin Carter by half a rebound in terms of that. one area where it might be helpful for Providence is he was shooting like 19% from three. Bryce Hopkins was. So you take that off the board. That ain't the worst thing in the world. But, you know, you just can't replace a Bryce Hopkins with what you have on this roster. And so that's where we're at with it. It's funny, you know, we talked earlier in the week about with Illinois losing Terrence Shannon Jr. We didn't want to really move them like from a ranking standpoint too much. Just let it play out on the court. Well, unfortunately, it already did for Providence, and they already lost a game. So I think I will probably have them out of my rankings this week. But I'm hoping they can play back in. Like I want to root for teams and for people to rally the wagons and do well. So we'll see what happens there, Andy. And, you know, the question becomes, Garwey Dual has to step up. Can he, will he right now, averaging 3.5 points in 21 minutes? Somebody that, you know, you had noted before has some 2024 NBA draft buzz. So it's like the skill set, the expectation is kind of there for him. And as happens, next man up, but he's got to get in there and he's got to do it if Kim English's team is going to move forward at the same successful level that they have been so far.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if Dual can be that guy, because he had, I mean, there's draft pundits who had him as a lottery pick before the season, and certainly he has not played like that, and he hasn't really had that opportunity, but maybe there is a chance for him to step up and be more of a scorer, show some of those dynamic skills that had scouts so excited about him, and would be great to see that kind of next man up mentality for Kim English and the Friars. But Isaac, I want to talk a little bit about what this means for Seton Hall. Obviously the story is sad here for Providence, but this is a second really big win for Shaheen Holloway and the Pirates. I mean, they beat UConn. Now they got a road win against Providence. And I'm kind of curious if they have a tournament resume. And we did a little digging into it. And ultimately the answer right now is probably not yet. They are 77th in the net as we record this on Thursday evening. That will shift a little bit. They're 72nd at KenPom. They're actually a worse defensive team than an offense, or excuse me, a worse defensive team than offensively, which is kind of backwards from what they've been in the past, especially last year, the first year under Coach Holloway. But they got 2 quad 1 wins, which is fantastic. They do have 2 quad 2 losses, 2 quad 1 losses, as well as a quad 3 loss, although the resume is kind of odd to me. The quad 3 losses Rutgers, the quad 2 losses are USC and Iowa. It's not like either of those losses really look all that bad on paper.
And a quad 3 win is Missouri.
Yeah, and a quad 3 win is Missouri. So this is really unique resume. They've played a lot of Power 5 programs, a lot of traditionally solid basketball programs, and some teams that have just not met expectations, like USC, of course, as well as Missouri, as well as Iowa to an extent. And so their resume is not that bad. It's not great yet, but certainly the Providence win, we'll see how well it ages. Of course, Providence may struggle going forward without Hopkins. The UConn win is obviously going to continue to age well because UConn is fantastic. So that's going to be a big one for them. But I think there is a path for Seton Hall at this position to, they don't have to win every game to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid. They got to win a lot of them. They can't lose any bad ones. Got to be beating the DePauls of the world, the Butlers of the world. Like, they got to take care of business against those teams in the Big East. But there's a path here for Seton Hall to make the NCAA tournament without winning the Big East. And even if they don't do it, if they're in that conversation for the rest of the month into February, I think you got to feel pretty good about Shaheen Holloway as your coach in year 2 if he's already putting this team in that conversation, because it's been a while since they've really been there.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I was just counted it up as you were talking. They've still got 9 quad 1 games left as things stand right now. Obviously, the net rankings and quad stuff shifts game to game, to day to day to day, whatever. But as you said, in the Big East, the opportunities are going to be there. And, you know, teams are like, it's way too early for us to have any kind of bubble conversation. But we can confidently say, because it happens every year, teams are going to play themselves onto and off of the bubble. So that's where we're sitting at. Andy, we one of the storylines we're always tracking is we've got 3 undefeated teams left. We were watching James Madison leading up to recording on Thursday night, because they were in a little bit of trouble, but then ran away from Louisiana in the end. So their undefeated season continues, and favored every game up through January 27th, you had noted, at App State. So we'll keep watching that, as well as obviously Houston and Ole Miss, who are the other 2 undefeated teams. Memphis, we got to mention them really quick, Andy, before we get out of here. Memphis, or not get out of here, but keep moving on to our weekend primer. Memphis wins at Tulsa on Thursday night, 78-75. Javon Quinterly buries a beautiful three with like 3.7 seconds left. I think the two biggest pieces of news outside of the result, though, are that Naquan Tomlin, Andy, as we anticipated probably would be the case, is just slotting right in, had a season-high 17 points. This was his third game to tie with David Jones, who's been the dude to lead Memphis in scoring. So that's great to see moving forward, in particular because, unfortunately, another potential big injury is Caleb Mills left for Memphis with what appeared to be some sort of knee injury. Same thing we talked about with Bryce Hopkins, had to be helped off by people on both sides. No news yet as of right now, because we're just an hour or two after that injury occurred. So we don't want to speculate, but Andy, I'll say that it didn't look good.
No, it did not.
Yeah, man, unfortunate there. Well, Mr. Patton, we are getting into a great weekend of college basketball, Friday and Saturday of college basketball. Sunday is blech, but we want to get you ready for that, including a massive top 10 Big Ten battle brewing Friday night as Illinois travels to Purdue to see what they really are without Terrence Shannon Jr. That's going to help us kick off the weekend. We'll get into that and more right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Game Time. Hey, Andy, one of your New Year's resolutions should be to check around that Spokane area and see what kind of sporting events and theater and concerts and more are out there for you. And when you do so, thankfully, there's an app called Game Time, the fast and easy way to help get last-minute ticket deals. Killer all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time, my friend, has exactly what you need to take Jenna on a nice, fun date around town. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, and thankfully, Game Time has you covered. They got deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even while it's going on. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download their app, create a free account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Mr. Andy Patton, let's get into our weekend preview. Got some great action Friday and in particular Saturday. Real-time update here. Arizona State has opened up a 6-point lead, 59-53 over Utah with about 7.5 left to go. So we'll keep tabs on that. All right, Andy, we got to start tonight, Friday night, number 10 Illinois at number 1 Purdue, 8:30 Eastern on FS1. FanDuel has this line Purdue minus 10.5. Andy, we saw Illinois' first Power 6 level game without Terrence Shannon Jr., and they look just fine. Thank you very much. Mr. Damask was an absolute dude in that game. But this is a whole different ball game when you go play at Purdue. Andy, you said earlier that when Arizona looks like they did on Thursday night, nobody can hang with them. But I think the team that most people think could is the Purdue Boilermakers. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, Purdue is still the best team in college basketball because they're the most consistent team in college basketball, the Northwestern loss notwithstanding. This is a great opportunity for them to pick up another really quality win. It's obviously a huge opportunity for Illinois to prove that they are still a really, really good team, even without Terrence Shannon Jr., but really good teams often don't go to Purdue and win. So I think this is going to be a likely win for Purdue. If Illinois is able to keep it close and play competitively, I think that still says good things about their potential future this season without Shannon. But this would have been a tough win for them, a tough game for them to win, even with Shannon. I think it's going to be even tougher without him.
They cover that 10.5 points, Andy. I know you're going to take Purdue outright. That's what I'm trying to decide. Do they cover?
Yeah, I'd say no. I think Purdue's going to win by like 12 or 15, maybe even a little bit more. But I think that they'll probably play competitively throughout most of the game.
All right, so Purdue both to win and cover the 10.5-point spread. I'm going to take Purdue to win, but Illinois to come in under that number, keep it to single digits. All right, Andy, one other notable game that we want to mention on Friday night, number 4 UConn at Butler, 6:30 Eastern on FS1. FanDuel has this one. Huskies by just 6.5, Andy. I think that's probably because it's a road game. They're in Hinkle Fieldhouse. Maybe Brad Stevens will get some magic dusted on that thing. Andy, we remember it was this time last year when UConn kind of had some of that skids. And so I think that's the question for us here is, can UConn go on the road and prove themselves in this one? Butler, potential sneaky upset pick, maybe?
Yeah, UConn needs this one in a bad way. I think they're going to take it. I do think they're going to win, and it's a 6.5 spread. I think I honestly am going to take UConn by more than that. They're just a significantly more talented team than Butler. They're a better team, but Butler's got a lot of fight. This Bulldog team is good. They're better than they've been in the past. They're going to fight really hard to defend their home floor. I think this is going to be a really fun basketball game. I almost never don't say that about Big East games. They're almost always fun. I think this is going to be another really good one, but I think UConn's going to prove that they deserve to be in that top 5 conversation. And the only way you prove that is you go out and beat teams on the road. And I think this is a good opportunity for them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, UConn right now 0-2 in true road games. Of course, that's at Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas and then against Seton Hall, as we talked about earlier. I'm with you. I have UConn to both win and cover that 6.5-point spread. Hey, why don't you take us into the Saturday slate?
Yeah, we got UNC at Clemson. Really fun matchup here. 9 versus 11 from our previous top 25 rankings. Of course, Clemson has since lost to Miami, gave up 95 points to the Canes in that one. A tough loss for Clemson. And now they got to defend their home floor and avoid going 0-2 this week in the ACC. Meanwhile, North Carolina coming into town got an opportunity to pick up another really big win. This game is at noon Eastern time on ESPN2. Clemson favored by 1 at home. Isaac, what do you think about that?
I think Clemson is going to be playing. You talked about playing pissed off earlier. They're going to be after dropping, allowing Miami to score 95. By the way, that game was wild. Miami had 0 bench points and scored 95. As for Clemson, they came into that game having allowed just averaging 69 points per game. Miami dropped 60 in the second half alone. So, like, all that to say, Brad Brownell's team is going to be dialed in for this one. It's always weird when it's a noon tip. Both teams are off of their rhythm, so that might play a factor. The team that's ready to go more quickly is going to be the one to do it. For North Carolina, this is just their second road game of the season, although it's their second road game in a row, having just come off beating Pittsburgh earlier this week. Listen, folks, I know there's going to be especially if North Carolina wins this game, there's going to be the Clemson jokes. If Clemson chokes, they build up this big non-con, nice resume. But this Clemson team, I'm telling you, man, it is legit. PJ Hall, for me, is the leading candidate for ACC Player of the Year. What's cool about this game is it's facing the guy that I have second right now in that ranking, which is RJ Davis. So it's PJ versus RJ, and this could be kind of telling of the ACC Player of the Year race. But for me, this is 2 of the top 3 teams in the ACC. I think that while Clemson is pissed off, I think North Carolina is still the better team in this one, but it is going to be close. I have the Tar Heels winning it by 2.
Well, you got the ACC at noon, and then half an hour later, you got a fun matchup in the SEC. Kentucky going on the road to Gainesville to take on the Gators of Florida, 12:30 Eastern time tip there. That game will be on ESPN, so you can split screen those 2 games to kick off I'm on the West Coast, so that's 9 and 9:30 a.m. for me. I'm getting right into it.
3:30 a.m.
No, I'm excited. I get to wake up with have my breakfast and watch 2 exciting college basketball games. Kentucky favored by 1 right now. That is per the KenPom lines right now. Todd Golden and the Gators, they really need a big win. They got a resume right now that doesn't quite look like where they want it to be. This is a huge opportunity for them. But Kentucky, they have aspirations of winning the SEC, and you can't lose road games to teams like Florida if you want to win the SEC. I'm really excited to see what this matchup between Riley Kugel and Walter Clayton for Florida versus Kentucky's trio of freshman guards with DJ Wagner, Rob Dillingham, and Reed Shepherd. Going to be an incredible guard performance between these 2 teams. Really excited about it.
I completely agree with you. A great game down there in Gainesville, and man, hard to call it, but I think I'm going to take the homestanding Gators to win by 3 in this one, Andy.
I like it. I like it. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip it exactly. I'm going to say Kentucky by 3. Why not? Let's just switch it.
I love it.
2 possession swap.
Yes. Chomp, chomp, baby. Hey, Andy, let's go to the Big 12 quickly. Iowa State at number 13, Oklahoma. 6 Eastern on ESPN+. The Ken Pom line is Oklahoma -2. Andy, we've been looking for a while to figure out if Iowa State is legit or not. We're about to find out, finally, if the Cyclones are legit on Saturday. And I got to say, I think they are, but I don't think they're Oklahoma legit. Sooners win this one for me.
Yep, I'm with you exactly. I think Sooners are going to win, but Iowa State's going to prove to a lot of people that they are the real deal.
Okay, let's move to the Mountain West. Colorado State, number 17, at Utah State. Speaking of the real deal, I know we've been in on Colorado State, but if you haven't been tracking with Utah State as well, Andy, the state of Utah has 3 teams in the top 26 in the net. BYU, Utah, who although right now is down 11 at Arizona State, and then Utah State is 26 right now as we record at the net. That's great stuff. This game is 9 Eastern. And it's Utah State -1 at home. Obviously, Andy, we were looking at that Colorado State New Mexico game earlier this week, which Colorado State won. Can they go into Utah State though and pick up another win?
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really, really exciting game. I think Colorado State's going to win it, but got to shout out that right now, Colorado State, Utah State, New Mexico, San Diego State, and Nevada, all those teams are either 1 or 2 loss teams. The Mountain West looking like a conference that's going to have 3, maybe 4 teams in the NCAA tournament this year. Really exciting stuff. I do think Colorado State here is the better team, and I do think they're going to win even in a tough road environment. Isaac, we got a couple more games here. I'm going to read them to you real quick and just let you pick which of these games you want to most talk about, because there's a lot of really fun basketball going on Saturday. We got Miami at Wake Forest at 2:15 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be on the CW network. And right now, Wake Forest is favored by 4. We then go to the SEC. We got number 16 Auburn at Arkansas playing at Bud Walton Arena. Auburn is favored by 5, despite going on the road. That game will be on ESPN2 at 2 Eastern. Utah at Arizona. We'll see if Arizona's still playing as pissed off as they were on Thursday night against Colorado. If so, that is not good news for the Utes. That game is on the Pac-12 network at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Arizona favored by 9 at Ken Pom. That might change by the time that game rolls around. And then we got Virginia at NC State, 2 p.m. Eastern time for that one as well on the ACC network. The Wolfpack favored by 1. Isaac, any of those 4 games in particular stand out to you that you want to talk about real quick before we get out of here?
I'm excited about all of those games for various reasons. But, Andy, the one I want to look at is Auburn at Arkansas. Auburn, I think, is feeling undervalued by a lot of people. The computer numbers love the Tigers, but Arkansas has not had a great start to the season. Big opportunity for them to get a big SEC win, as you said, at Bud Walton. And so I'm just really curious with both of these teams. I think that's why I like this game a lot, because there's all sorts of things that can happen. But also, Miami at Wake Forest should be an electric game. Lots of fun offense there.
Yeah, I'm picking Miami at Wake for my game. I think Miami's going to win. I know Wake Forest is favored. I think Miami's a slightly better team, but Wooga Poplar versus Hunter Salas, what a fun matchup. If you're an NBA draft person, you're looking for who's my team going to take in the second round, watch this game, because Wooga Poplar and Hunter Salas are 2 guys kind of trending in that second round conversation. Some veteran guards, high-level shooters, high-level scorers. I think that's going to be a really fun game between 2 really talented teams, and I'm really looking forward to watching that one as well.
I will say, Andy, we'll have to watch to see if Poplar's available, because he did not play in that Clemson game on Wednesday night. But Nigel Pack was back for the Canes, and now he scored 25, 20 of which were in the second half.
Yeah, plenty of good guard play in that game, even if Wooga doesn't step foot on the floor. I think that's going to wrap it up for us today here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Some fun stuff coming this way this weekend. I'm excited to be back on Monday, getting a chance to review these games, and look forward to another week as we get into the meat of the college basketball season and conference play. Thanks to all of you who have made the show your first listen or your first watch of the day. Appreciate all of you who have joined us already on our Discord channel. If you want to get involved, there's a link in the show notes on audio or video platforms. You can click that link, come hang out with us on Discord. You can vote for us in the Sports Podcast Awards. We got a link for that out there as well. Apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats after a huge win on Thursday night. And until next week, peace.